How did life begin? I mean, really begin. It's one of the biggest, most fundamental mysteries out there. And for decades, the search for an answer has been this incredible scientific showdown between two completely different ideas about what life even is. It all boils down to the ultimate chicken or egg problem, right? To get life, you absolutely need a blueprint, something like DNA, to store all the information and pass it down. But to read and use that blueprint, you need a living, working machine, a cell already up and running. So which one could have possibly come first? Well, this question has pretty much split scientists into two camps. You've got Team Genes first over here, arguing that life is all about information. It had to start with a master blueprint. Then you have Team Metabolism first, who say, no, you're looking at it all wrong. Life is a process. It started as a kind of self-sustaining chemical engine. So let's dig into both of these cases. Okay, let's open up the first case file. This is the argument from Team Genes first. It's the classic origin story, the one you might have heard of, famously championed by people like Richard Dawkins. And it all starts with one single, incredible molecule. The idea goes something like this. Billions of years ago, floating around in this primordial soup of chemicals, one special molecule randomly snapped together. They call it the replicator. And its one amazing trick, it could make copies of itself. It was its own blueprint. And this is where the logic gets really elegant. See, the replicator isn't perfect. It makes tiny mistakes when it copies itself, and those mistakes create variation. Suddenly, you don't have one molecule. You have a whole population of slightly different ones, all competing for the same chemical building blocks. And of course, the ones that are better at copying, maybe they're more stable or faster, they start to win out. And just like that, bam, you have the very beginnings of natural selection. This idea leads to a really powerful and kind of mind-bending worldview. From this perspective, organisms, you, me, a tree, a mushroom, we're all just elaborate survival machines. The real players in the game of life are the genes themselves, locked in this epic, invisible war to get themselves copied down through the millennia. But here's the massive problem for the genes first theory. For a molecule complex enough to copy itself to just appear by chance? To a lot of scientists, that seems staggeringly improbable. It's kind of like hoping to find a fully assembled engine in a junkyard. So, what's the alternative? All right, let's flip over to our second case file. This is the other side of the debate, Team Metabolism first. And they argue that we're starting in completely the wrong place. For them, life isn't about some single master molecule. It's about a collective process. Now, their model is built on something with a very technical name, RAFs. But don't worry about the name. The concept is just brilliant. Imagine a chemical factory where every single machine is built by another machine inside that same factory. The whole system just runs and runs in a loop, each part helping to create the next, all of it powered by some simple fuel from the outside world. What's so powerful about this is that it grounds the origin of life in simple, totally plausible chemistry. You start with basic stuff that was everywhere on the early Earth, hydrogen, CO2. Then these chemical reactions start to feed each other in a self-sustaining web. And here's the absolute kicker. The output isn't just waste. This process naturally starts churning out the very building blocks of life itself, like amino acids and the components of RNA. And this isn't just some abstract idea. It's backed by some amazing evidence. By comparing the genes of some of the most ancient microbes on Earth, scientists actually found a shared core network of 172 chemical reactions. It's like finding a living fossil of that original metabolic factory, preserved in the DNA of everything that came after it. So we've got two really compelling stories, right? The lone replicator versus the collective factory. Now let's put them head to head and see what the experimental evidence actually tells us. This chart kind of lays it all out. The genes first theory starts with a really improbable event, but it gives you a super clear path to evolution through natural selection. Metabolism first, on the other hand, starts with a much more probable chemical process, but then it has the challenge of explaining, okay, how did this network eventually learn to store information like a gene does? So what happens when you test these ideas in the lab? Well, this is where things get really interesting. Recent studies have actually shown that these self-sustaining metabolic networks can produce the building blocks for genes. In other words, the factory really can build the blueprint. But here's the twist. The reverse doesn't seem to work. When scientists just threw the building blocks of genes into a chemical soup, they didn't spontaneously organize themselves into a working factory. So it seems the factory can build the blueprint, but the blueprint, all by itself, can't build the factory. This whole debate, it really pushes us beyond just chemistry. It forces us to ask a much bigger, much more philosophical question about our own existence. What does it actually mean to be alive? Because these two theories give us profoundly different answers. The gene's eye view suggests that life is a total freak accident, an incredibly unlucky lottery ticket that we just happen to win. We are just vehicles in a war fought by our genes. But the metabolism first view lines up more with physics. It suggests that life isn't an accident at all. It's a natural, maybe even inevitable, consequence of energy and matter organizing themselves into more and more complex patterns. And this quote just gets right to the heart of it. If life is only about selfishly copying information, then why all of this? Why this breathtaking, Baroque complexity? The simple act of copying a gene doesn't seem to fully explain the sheer wonder of something as intricate as a bat's wing or a human eye. And that's really the question we're left with, isn't it? Was the spark of life a lucky roll of the dice that created a master blueprint? Or was it the predictable hum of a chemical factory built into the fundamental laws of the universe? The answer doesn't just tell us where we came from, it tells us what we are.